Good morning to you, and thank you for joining us this morning for Freshly Pressed 981. It's a segment of Smooth Breakfast on Smooth 98.1 FM Lagos. My name is Valentine Uhu, your host, and I'm joined by Ugo Dre.
Mm,
I haven't seen this man in over a year.
I haven't been here in a while.
I feel like the friends that I meet up with these days, I should take pictures with them, and just
Because you
say
never
one
know.
year later or something. You never know. But good to see you, man.
Good to be here, bro.
Welcome back.
Yeah, thanks so
Welcome
much.
back.
Miss this place, so
Yeah, I mean, we've been seeing your work, so it didn't feel like we've missed you so much because we've just been, watching everything going on with Metrics, referring to all the
it's all
publications.
good, you
But
know.
we miss
Working
your
hard for you.
presence.
Thanks,
Okay,
bro.
okay.
Good to
I'm
be
telling
back.
you. Thank
Good
you so
morning,
much.
Lagos. Good to be here again. I hope you can hear us. So no more internet wahala and
No,
all
no,
this.
no,
I
no.
can't hear you.
None
Can you
of
see
that.
my screen?
Yeah.
Am I?
Can you increase your volume? Can you turn on
please?
your mic? Those kind of thing. Ugo Dre is live. You can watch on YouTube and leave a comment on that platform as well. YouTube.com/smooth981 FM Lagos. We're streaming live on Instagram as well at Valentine Ohu. Send a tweet to Smooth981 FM with the hashtag freshly pressed 981. On WhatsApp, send a message to 0809 Let's jump right to the stories. Ugo Dre, the Punch newspaper reports El Rufai attacks governors over strike. The Nigerian Governors Forum mauls 380 naira per liter fuel price.
Mm,
Local parlance, people say Kasala don't bust. But the governor said in one of the statements I found interesting, I'm a governor, I'm one of you. The least I expect from the Nigerian Governors Forum is unequivocal and unqualified support. I didn't see that in the statement. What are your thoughts, please?
mm. Two stories in one. I don't even know which one to start with. Maybe we'll just start with this Aerofire
With
and
Verify and then progress to
get
the pump price.
into the pump price. So that same comment that he made was what I also circled here, and it kind of sounded like what he's trying to avoid is also what he's trying to propagate. So, you don't want unions, getting into your business, but at the same time, when you union with governors,
Mm-hmm.
and you're saying governors should come together for you,
Mm.
and in his words, unequivocal and unqualified support, right? So, I mean, governors are free to have dissenting views. Some that might be in support of labor, there's some, so everybody doesn't have to be, on the same page. Putting that aside and get into the substance of the issue, I think that I mean, there's been a lot of debate about his issue with Nigerian labor over the last few days, and people have divergent views. I personally, I think I kind of always thought that um, the way Congress is constituted today and the way they are set up, I think is kind of wrong. I think it's inimical to the kind of economy we're looking for,
Mm.
right? We talk every day here about government spending and how we have very bloated civil service and
Mm.
efficient civil service, and we all know this. We all experience it every day, right?
Mm.
The only way you can curb this is doing some of the things that he's doing, whether you like it or not. Right? You've got to have people who are bold in leadership, who are ready to take the right decisions. Unfortunately, RFI is one of those people that you probably shouldn't be the person you would expect to be doing things like this because of his divisive nature, or how he's perceived, whether in media or in most circles. But getting to the substance of this, Valentine, I think that uh, him trying to rally the state governors,
National,
yeah,
I'm telling you.
national, like it's not something you do easily. So it could eat him up,
Mhm.
right? So that's why he also needs the backing of the governors, because I mean, when you have backing of state governors, then perhaps that also gives you a little bit of cushion, or something that you can stand on to keep on the fight. I think so far so good. I would maybe say he's winning,
Mm.
because he's standing his ground. I think that he probably has a value. And there's something he said here. He said Kaduna is not owing state salaries. Kaduna is not state failing to pay minimum wage. Kaduna is not owing years of pension arrears. So if you look at it from that angle, like, why are you in my space? Like,
Mm.
there are several states out there who are not even paying salaries, who are not even paying pensions.
Mm.
Those are the kind of fights that you should be gunning for, and not gunning for fights of me trying to restructure my state and trying to restructure the economy of my state. And when you want to restructure the economy of your state, you've got to be able to start from where you think the cost is more. If you have head an organization and you're trying to basically cut costs, typically where you go to as well is wages and salaries. So that I think is the issue for me. Well, I've always said labor should focus mostly on things like just welfare of employees, health and safety, collective bargaining, compensation, conditions of living, and all those are I think within those boundaries. But it's sacrosanct for organizations to have the power to hire and fire in line with their company policy. I think that's something that you can't take away. And same goes for governments. So most governments that we want to be like, most countries that we want to be like, that's what they do. Right? So you can't stop the state government from being able to hire and fire in line with the economic conditions. When things are better, they hire. When things are bad, they fire. That's how it works around the world. So that's my stand here, Val.
Most of the critics actually reacted to say, "Oh, he shouldn't have fired all 45,000 at once. Probably should have fired them in stages, in batches."
Perhaps,
Could have made
what is the is that he had to fire them,
yes.
right? So whether he's had to fire them in batches depends on how much the state has, to survive. So, but that's a good line of argument. Perhaps maybe you should have done it a different way. But what you can't say is, the state government from doing what is necessary to keep the economy of the state afloat. Now, what you should also ask yourself, or what you should also back, is the guys that were fired, were they duly compensated? I think along those lines of argument would make sense for me. And in terms of this floor price, this one kind of looks strange to me.
The hen has come to roost.
Yeah, I don't know, because it kind of seems like, okay, so you're on one hand you're saying remove fuel subsidy, and then on the other side you're now saying, well, when you remove the fuel subsidy, prices should be, let me state, the committee recommended 408.5 liters as the appropriate price in the circumstances, but that with concessions to labor unions. So this just made nonsense of the entire thing. Why don't you just focus on moving fuel subsidy? Don't tell us what the price should be. Let the market determine the price. You're not the one that will tell us what the price is.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you can't be saying remove fuel subsidy and now tell us what the price is.
And on the other hand, you're saying the government doesn't have a hand in price fixing.
Exactly. So it just doesn't, and that's the problem I have with some of the state government. Like, it's okay for you to say remove fuel subsidy, and most of it you remove though. But I mean, don't tell us what the price is. The market will determine the price. Simple and short. You're not going to tell us. Are you telling us it's for so that we'll negotiate to 250 and everybody will be happy? And you don't get.
That's what it seems.
I mean, like, that's what you would use it when you're bargaining. If you say remove fuel subsidy, then leave it at that. Let's just take it out. But don't come and tell us this is where the price would be. Government just loves to fix prices. I don't know why. They just like that power. It's drunken in them. Just want to tell us what the price is. If you've taken out fuel subsidy, you don't have any control over prices again.
So is this a confusing statement, a confusing stance? Do we know the position the government is taking? Are they going to continue to hold on to that power of negotiating price or fixing prices? Because by this statement, it's clear.
Yeah, I don't.
It's direct.
If you take it, then you don't have any, because you're not involved in my pricing. You're not subsidizing anything for the market, so you can't tell a marketer how much you can sell fuel in Onitsha or in Kebbi or in Akwa Ibom. You can't tell them, because he's going to factor in cost of transportation, demand and supply, and all that metrics. All those dynamics will get involved in determining what this price is. So if people feel like fuel is cheaper in Akwa Ibom, and you want to now go and hire a truck and move it from Akwa Ibom to Lagos, that's your business. Yeah, all your costs reflect in there. So it's not this one that government subsidizes everywhere. So you're not going to tell us what the price is. It's just my take here. Once the most government can do basically is to avoid racketeering, or avoid things like collusion between major marketers, price fix, because buyers can also fix prices.
Yes,
like we've seen in some other industries. So that's where regulation comes in. You gotta make sure that you don't have corporations fixing prices, and a lot of those things that affect price increases, you eliminate them completely. So it's meant to reduce prices and increase quality. That's actually the idea of capitalism.
That's absolutely true. Because if, for example, you have two men sharing this shop space, or just next to it, at the center of each other, basic business. Thank you so much for that. I'll use this message to link us next week, similar to the part of the first story that we treat. An update I was shared by Rotus. Thank you so much. Kada's statement released a statement yesterday. through quoting Rafaya saying that no official Kaduna State will go to any meeting with federal government or NLC when the citizens of the state have no electricity. Remember, that was shut down on Sunday prior to the strike, warning strike. It continues, says, we hold the FGN responsible for inability to access its ownership rights over TCN. No electricity, no meeting. Grandstanding by the state governor, Kaduna State, in face of the federal government trying to step in to mediate between them and Labour, National Labour Congress. So where does this leave us?
I said earlier, if you go and I remember reading up, you know, one of the in the world, and that was in the days of Margaret Thatcher, which was in the UK. I mean, if you go and read up that battle, it was. I mean, she fought Constance.
That was an interesting era.
Because she was vehemently opposed. And I think that that stigma, we have for a while, but a lot of people still respected her. Remember then at some point you say, you're in my type.
Yes.
Yeah, because I mean, if you want to push through reforms, don't expect to be liked.
It seemed like she was the only one fighting that battle because the whole government was still proponents of ensuring that, I mean, some welfare is passed on to the citizens, but she believed everybody should work.
Exactly. So she didn't believe that, you should have state-run agencies and state-run, all over the place. And she basically pushed her privatization. And that model is what was copied around the world. And that's also part of the things that Babangida then copied, and that's the Council for Privatization State. And if they are not behind him, then I think he's going to backtrack. But so long as he had people, of Kaduna State behind him, right, and supporting him, I think that's going to be difficult for Labour. This is really going to be a big mark for Labour, because if they do lose this battle, then this basically is the stone for what will happen in the next few years, because there's still a lot of things that the government is looking to turn. Now, one thing the government has also learned is, I think, this particular government has kind of learned how to play Labour as well, how to play a game. Unfortunately, sometimes doing that means you're taking some wins and you're taking some losses. How much losses you take, what you don't know, whether it's electricity price or whether it's fuel subsidy, when you want to remove fuel subsidy, and then backtrack and then back and then middle ground. So you keep playing all those games. But if you really want to win these, you have to dig deep and really go all the way. It comes with a lot of sacrifices, and like I've said, we're in a democracy, and democracy is all about the people. So long as the people are behind you, right, then the way he did, or government the way he did, he had his people behind him. Or even now that he's out, they are still behind him. So once you have people behind you, it's very difficult for you to not win, and that's what I think El-Rufai is banking on. Should he negotiate with NLC on behalf, or on behalf of the government? I think so. I think he should, send people there and make a case to the government. Because at the end of the day, when democracy, so you got to be able to negotiate. This is not an autocracy, and you're not trying to, you're not trying to be despotic, or trying to, you know what I mean. So, whether you like it or not, people that you also fired, for 5,000 or so people have lived Kaduna State in this, and they've got a lot of people who depend on them. For the source of life, and they also got a voice, and there's also an opposition there as well. I mean, I think the PDP, was basically against what is doing as expected. So you gotta have representation. I think that El-Rufai perhaps is upset and is in war mode at the moment. So I mean, literally speaking, but I think that people are supporting him behind and telling him move on, man, because this is basically a template for what is to come, right? For them as well in the battle that is coming ahead. Remember, they've already mixed this now with fuel subsidy removal, and that's another battle that might have to fight at some point this year, especially as oil prices is flirting around $70 per barrel. So it's just inevitable that fuel prices would go up.
It's better late than never in this time, especially after COVID and how so many people have been affected. So many people cannot survive what's to come. And that's a big gap that the government has to find a way to plug. But do we have the capacity to do that? Bigger question. Please keep those messages coming to WhatsApp 0809 Boundless Love sent us this from the UK. Says, good morning. There's something. Okay, thank you. We've sorted that out. Chineye from Ikeja says, El-Rufai is on the right and moral side of the labor issue. The real enemy of the society is NLC. It's immoral to insist that all of society must continue to pay for unproductive labor. MEC says El Rufai is a lone ranger whose ego-trotting mannerisms have put Kaduna State government into reverse. When you remember the time that Mobi called everybody's bluff in Oyo State, where did it invariably end him? You have to keep being current by giving attention to the voice of the dialogue. Ransom payment has now become a criminal act. Okay, we'll get to that story, but thank you, Yemisi, for that message. Prince says different media reports on the number of staff fired. Did he fire 45 or 7,000? According to the details we have on New Telegraph, it says 45,000. Chris, he has sent in a message. According to it, NLC is not asking the Kaduna State government not to fire the workers, but to do so according to the law and pay the disengagement benefits. That's right. Yemi from Marina says, good morning, Valentine. It's important to state here that Aerophi's cause of action is very valid. The modus operandi, however, is a problem. Certain people employed these people and give them hope of the next meal. You can't wake up one morning to start firing them. What could have been done is reduce employment all the time, do a lot of redeployment as people retire, and do a lot of training for people taking on roles they're not familiar with. Trying to make the populace take the bill of the hit is not fair and it's not right. Abami Akarakiri says, good morning, Val. Thumbs up to Gudre. Apt and concise analysis. We need you more here. Yes. So in plain terms, Al Rufai insists that he will not use 90% of the state's federal allocation resources meant for 8 million people to fund 1,000 civil servants, local government workers, and political appointees. Sendo State should spend more than 30% of its resources on salaries. The federal allocation is meant for development, not salaries, and this is good. Abarami, thank you for that message. Let's get on to the next story. Talking about the national carrier that has been mauled for quite a while. It seems like it's about to land at our ports. First quarter of 2022 is the projected time. Is this going to be possible? We've had this kind of story or this kind of line before.
To launch national carrier, it's not the problem. It's to sustain it. Rabi, this is not the first time.
When we're acquiring through AMCON.
Basanjo tried it as well. Went on for a while and then never worked. Well, I think we'll have to pay by AMCON, like you said, the major ones, whether it's ARIC, whether it's Aero, AMCON now. So they are nationalized anyway. But this issue of national carrier, my take on it has always been, I don't think we need to be in the business of owning national carrier. There are a lot of other things that government can invest in that better off for us. But the data and the number doesn't seem to justify that anymore. And yes, you should be worried about government's ability to basically, manage, assets, especially businesses that you would expect the private sector to run better. But do we need, I don't want to say a national carrier, or even if it's owned by the private sector, but an airline that can basically represent us, an Nigerian airline that can take us outside the country, has international fleet, local fleet, solid one. I think we do. And I say this because Nigerians travel a lot. And if you look at the data, minimum $2-3 billion every year on travel. So a lot of the demand for forex that you have, I think they call them so forex utilization is divided into two. You have invisible and then invincible that come to Nigeria to move us out to other countries. When you buy those tickets, where do you think the dollars go to? They leave here, right? So the dollar